Next on Newsmax Prime, thwarting attacks. The FBI director says 10 people were arrested and terror plot stopped around the July 4th holiday. We'll discuss with Bernie Kerik. Then, with similar campaign stickers and slogans, is Donald Trump channeling his inner Ronald Reagan? We'll ask the son of the former president, political commentator Michael Reagan. And even with those aforementioned terror threats, the Pentagon announces they plan to trim our forces, laying off 40,000 troops. Retired Lieutenant Colonel and current Congressman Steve Russell has a strong reaction. Newsmax Prime starts right now. Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Two stories of prime interest tonight, strong words and even stronger actions. First, the words. Tone it down. That's what the New York Times reports that RNC Chairman Reince Priebus told Donald Trump. Priebus reacting to the Donald's position on illegal immigration as the GOP establishment worries that Donald's outspoken stance might somehow damage the party. We'll have more on that in just a moment. Right now, the strong actions I mentioned earlier. FBI Director James Comey announced today that at least 10 people inspired by ISIS online recruitment efforts were arrested and terror plots thwarted around July 4th. Former New York Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik was on our programs just days before that Independence Day holiday, and he stressed then how important it is for all of us to remain vigilant.
The threat level is high. By all accounts, the chatter, the online chatter, the recruitment by ISIS and Al-Qaeda and other radical extremist groups, it's extremely heavy right now. They're calling for attacks against their enemies. We are one of their prime enemies. In their eyes, at least. So at this point, we have to remain vigilant. The bottom line is we never know where it's going to happen. Could happen anywhere in that naval yard, a tourist location, a transportation hub. You have to look at what these people are doing abroad because they could do it here.
I'm pleased to be joined on the anchor desk by Miranda Kahn, and joining us from Newsmax New York, live now, former New York Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik. Bernie, of course, also the author of the book From Jailer to Jailed. Bernie, it's great to have you back on Newsmax Prime, and we talked about it prior to the 4th holiday, the warning for Americans to remain vigilant, but the notion of picking up prospective terrorists. In retrospect, was that a wise move?
Yeah, I think it is, JD. And look, you have to leave it, in the hands of the FBI, the local and the state police, the investigative authorities. They're monitoring, tracking these people. As I said just before the 4th, we've got to remain vigilant. The FBI, James Comey, they know what they're looking for. They know what these people are trying to do and where the most credible threats are. So, if they feel they got to go out and snatch them up, because they're about to do something, so be it. And I give them a lot of credit. In the entire intelligence community, we are in a far better condition today than we were on September 10th of 2001 with regard to our intelligence services. But, God forbid we miss one. It could set us back an enormous amount. So, I give them a lot of credit for what they've done and what they continue to do and for keeping us safe.
Bernie, let's switch gears for a moment and talk about illegals and crime. Take a listen to what Donald Trump had to say about the issues in a very heated exchange with NBC. We want to get your reaction.
The murder rate in El Paso, Texas, which is right on the border, is the lowest murder rate for any of the big cities in the country.
Don't try and convince me that there's no crime, that it's wonderful. The people that are being forced in, and these aren't just Mexican people, the people that are being forced, Mexico doesn't want people, they're forcing them into our country, and we're taking them and we're putting them in our jails and our hospitals, and we're paying them money through different sources. It's a disgrace.
There you have it. Trump standing by his statements once again. Bernie, we have to ask you, is there any truth to what Trump is saying?
Miranda, look, this has been an issue for years. And I know people don't like the way Mr. Trump is saying it. The bottom line is that we get a lot of illegals that come across the borders, committing crime in the United States, bringing drugs into the United States. Those border communities, yeah, you may have one or two communities that have a low murder rate, but I have to tell you, go down and talk to the sheriffs, talk to the immigration people that work the borders, talk to the border patrols, and they will tell you that we have enormous problems on the border. So, you know, I think people have to give some credibility to what Trump is saying.
And in terms of what Trump had to say, the dominant media culture, the so-called mainstream, may not like it. Certain establishment Republicans may not like it. But Bernie, you're just saying he's telling us the truth.
Well, you know what, JD and Miranda, you have to talk to the experts. I'm confident that Trump is talking to the people on the borders. You talk to those sheriffs that work in those towns in Arizona, Texas, the southwest border, down by San Diego. They have enormous problems on the borders. And I think that's what Trump is talking about. Look, I can't speak for him. But what I can do is tell you what I've been told by people that work the borders. And we have problems.
Well, you know, you mentioned San Diego, but San Francisco has been in the news quite a bit in light of what's happened with that woman losing her life to an illegal immigrant who was deported 5 times. In your opinion, is crime worse in sanctuary cities?
Well, you know, I think you have to take in each city individually, but sanctuary cities cannot be a safe haven for criminal activity. You know, if you have illegals in these cities, we should be taking action to get them out of here, to get them back over the borders, to make sure that they're not committing acts of violence. And, you know, taking a position where we're not going to touch anybody that's illegal, I think that's a very dangerous position.
Bernie, let's talk about where you sit in New York City. And now Mayor Bill de Blasio wanting to give ID cards to illegals, taking sanctuary city notion and elevating it even more. It must be tough for the New York PD to have to deal with the whole notion of being a sanctuary city.
Well, you know what, JD? You have to look at this from an enforcement perspective. There is a federal law that, you know, says that these people are entering the country illegally. They're here illegally. Cities and state governments, local and state governments should be taking actions. You have city and state governments that are now not notifying ICE, not notifying the federal authorities because they don't want to offend anybody. I think that's a dangerous perspective. I think it's putting people in danger, and you have to abide by the law.
Bernie, less than a minute remains. We want to make sure that we get to this topic. Anthony Batts, Baltimore's former police commissioner, for now he's being replaced by Kevin Davis as the interim commissioner. Did Baltimore's mayor do the right thing in your opinion?
Listen, I think this is a hypocrisy. Baltimore's mayor told the police, told Batts and the rest of the police department to stand back and let the protesters, I won't even say protesters, let the rioters destroy what they wanted. That was her words in a press conference. Give them space to destroy. He did what he was told to do by the mayor, and now she's released him, terminated him, because she didn't like the police their response to the riots. She created that response. I think if anybody, if she's going to fire him, she should step down.
Bottom line, Commissioner Batts was a scapegoat, and Bernie, you're telling us it's really the mayor who needs to go. Again, the name of the book Bernie authored is From Jailer to Jailed. Always a straight shooter and candid with his comments. Bernie Kerik, we thank you so much for joining us from Newsmax, New York tonight. Still to come, Donald Trump leads in yet another presidential poll. Philip Stutz will discuss the results. Then later, can sanctuary cities actually help public safety? Hillary Clinton says yes. We'll get the reaction of our political panel. But first, Michael Reagan says Donald Trump has already won the first debate. He'll explain why when Newsmax Prime continues.